1. As the expected top scorer in the Gaokao, I suddenly confessed to cheating during the exam. All because in my past life, the fake young master with poor grades was interviewed by reporters. First, he flaunted his wealth with a 2.8 million yuan watch, then insulted other examinees as poor nobodies. What does it matter if you score well? You still won't be able to afford a 2.8 million yuan watch in your lifetime. Some outraged students argued with him, but the fake young master simply had them beaten up. When I heard about it, I even tried to console my parents, telling them not to be upset. Yet my parents looked at me with disgust, saying I was the one flaunting wealth. The beaten students also insisted it was me who had assaulted them that day. The reporter even directly produced a video, which clearly showed my face. I was beaten to death by an angry mob. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the final subject of the college entrance exam. All the other students were diligently answering their questions when I suddenly stood up and shouted, "Teacher, I cheated." I was taken alone by the invigilator into a small dark room for investigation. The invigilator looked at me with confusion. "Su Jinchuan, you're famously a top candidate for Tsinghua or Peking University. There's no reason for you to cheat." No matter how the invigilator or the Gaokao committee questioned me, I stubbornly insisted that I had indeed cheated. But when they asked me for details about how I cheated, I kept silent. They had no choice but to notify my parents as per regulations. My mother stormed in and slapped me hard across the face, shouting angrily, "Su Jinchuan, what's gotten into you? Stop talking nonsense, apologize right now, and go back to take the Gaokao properly." I covered my face and pointed at my mother, shouting, "My mom knew about my cheating, and she was involved too." As soon as these words were spoken, the Gaokao committee immediately detained my mother as well. My mother was heartbroken and cried out, "Su Jinchuan, have you lost your mind? Why would you tell such a lie?" Watching my mother continuously berate me, I finally showed the first genuine smile since my rebirth. Why? Naturally, it was to prove my innocence. In my previous life, my mother found me and brought me back home 1 month before the Gaokao. Holding my hand, she cried with genuine emotion, "My son, my own son, I've finally found you." Only then did I realize that I was actually the true young master of the Gu family. I thought I had finally found happiness, having yearned for familial love since childhood. Little did I know there was a pampered fake heir, Gu Mingxian, in the family who constantly targeted me, while my parents turned a blind eye. Back then, my longing for family affection was so intense that I studied even harder, believing that becoming the top scorer in the Gaokao would make my parents recognize my strengths and love me as much as they did Gu Mingxian. Yet when the Gaokao ended, Gu Mingxian, who was in the same examination hall as me, was the first to rush out of the test center. Just as a reporter happened to ask him how he did on the exam, Gu Mingxian stroked his gleaming watch and spoke disdainfully. "What does it matter if I did well or not? I'm the young master of the Gu family. I have endless money to spend. Have you seen my watch? 2.8 million. Even if I score 0, I'll still live better than those high-achieving losers." The examinees who had just exited heard Gu Mingxuan's insulting remarks and grew visibly displeased. A few troublemakers even started cursing at Gu Mingxian outright. With a cold smirk, Gu Mingxian ordered the bodyguards waiting at the entrance to take action, injuring over a dozen examinees. Upon hearing the news that the young master of the Gu family was showing off his wealth and assaulting people at the school gate, I even comforted my parents, saying Gu Mingxian surely didn't mean to do it. Yet they looked at me coldly, hurling all kinds of insults, saying the Gu family had no son like me, and in the end, they outright kicked me out of the house. I was utterly confused. Clearly, it was Gu Mingxian who had done wrong, so why was I the one being thrown out? It wasn't until the students who were beaten came to demand compensation from me. They pulled out that flashy wealth interview, and to my shock, it was my face on the screen. 2. I, Su Jinchuan, the eldest young master of the Gu family. You paupers will only ever get to envy me for the rest of your lives. My eyes widened in disbelief, utterly baffled. Why did the boy in the video not only look exactly like me but also sound identical? But no matter what, in this lifetime, I will never let myself be trampled upon again. The invigilators and the Gaokao committee members reviewed the surveillance footage repeatedly and checked me multiple times for any hidden cheat sheets. Only after it was completely dark outside and they had confirmed that the Gaokao exam papers had not been leaked did they finally release my mother and me. As soon as I stepped out of the school gate, before I could even take in a breath of fresh air, someone suddenly shouted my name. "Su Jinchuan is here." At his shout, dozens of people instantly rushed out from all directions, surrounding me in an instant. A fierce-looking bald man roared angrily, "You damned scoundrel! My daughter just complained a little, and you had her beaten. She's still unconscious in the hospital. This is the villain. Grab him. Beat him to death, serve justice for heaven. Act on behalf of heaven to uphold justice." The crowd glared at me with fury, shoving me incessantly, as if they couldn't wait to eliminate me. Some bystanders, eager to escalate the drama, even pulled out their phones to livestream, pointing their cameras directly at my face. Facing the indignant crowd, a storm of emotions raged within me. I had clearly given up on the Gaokao for life, so why won't they let me off the hook? Waving my hands to block the cameras, I shouted in protest, "You've got the wrong person. I'm not the one who did anything wrong." A shirtless man snorted coldly and shoved a video in my face, saying, "You still dare to deny it? Look, ISNT this your face?" On my eldest brother's phone screen, it showed that as soon as the Gaokao exam ended, I was the first to rush out of the school, heading straight for the reporters. Faced with the reporters' routine questions, I responded with disdain, arrogantly flaunting my wealth and belittling the other examinees. Just as the reporters' smiles were about to fade, the other Gaokao students who had started to exit the school heard my words and grew increasingly displeased. Soon, verbal conflict escalated into physical confrontation. I even had my bodyguards beat up more than a dozen Gaokao students right in front of the cameras. When the ambulance took them to the hospital, I shamelessly declared that our Gu family had plenty of money and could afford the medical bills. Amidst the crowd's silent fury, my sister suddenly appeared and made me apologize repeatedly to everyone. My pupils dilated abruptly, my entire body stiffening. How could this happen? In my past life, after I hit someone, it was Mom who apologized on my behalf. This time, I had clearly made sure Mom was locked in the exam room's dark cubicle with me. But why has the one accusing me now become my sister? The originally quiet live stream suddenly saw a surge of viewers as this infuriating scene unfolded, with comments flooding the screen. What kind of watch costs 2.8 million? Even the son of a gambling tycoon hasn't worn one that expensive. What's his family background? Not only flaunting wealth so openly but also daring to hit someone in public. They should be thoroughly investigated. Not only were the netizens in the live stream furious, but the people on site were even more outraged. My hand was suddenly grabbed tightly, and a medical bill was slapped onto my face. You think you can escape responsibility? My son's tailbone was broken by you, and he'll never be able to stand up again for the rest of his life. The medical expenses are 2 million yuan. Pay up now. 2 million might just be the price of one of your watches, but it's the hope for my son's entire future. Facing the crowd's accusations, I quickly explained, "You've misunderstood. I didn't even take the Gaokao today, so how could I be the first one out of the exam hall? The one showing off wealth and hitting people was my younger brother, Gu." Before I could finish speaking, my mother suddenly raised her hand and slapped me hard across the face. 3. Su Jinchuan, how dare you still frame Gu Mingxian at this point? I don't have a son like you. Mother explained to the onlookers. Everyone, although Su Jinchuan is of our Gu family's bloodline, he was mischievous and ran away as a child, never raised under my care. That's why he's grown up so uncouth. I now declare publicly that our Gu family does not acknowledge this son. The crowd erupted in uproar. Without the Gu family status, how could a barely adult child like me possibly afford such exorbitant compensation fees? Their emotions grew even more intense, demanding an explanation from the Gu family. Mother gave me a cold glance and said to the crowd, "Although I don't acknowledge Su Jinchuan as my son, rest assured, our Gu family will take full responsibility for your compensation." Only then did the parents relax, praising Madame Gu while casting even more disdainful looks at me. Mother grabbed my hair, forcing me to kneel. "The Gu family can pay the money, but Su Jinchuan, you must also pay the price for your actions. Apologize now." I struggled desperately, shouting, "I didn't do it. Why should I confess? Brother, please just admit your mistake. Don't make Mom angrier." Gu Mingxian suddenly appeared out of nowhere, grabbing my hand and bursting into tears. Seeing my stubborn resistance, he bent down to apologize to the surrounding crowd. "Aunties and uncles, I apologize on behalf of my brother. My brother definitely didn't mean to do it, he just... At the end of his speech, Gu Mingxian pretended to wipe away tears. Seeing Gu Mingxuan's gracious attitude, the onlookers glared at me with even more contempt. The barrage comments are flying fast. What a little angel this is. Looks like he's also a son of the Gu family. How can one be in heaven while the other in hell? I think I've heard about this wealthy family's secret history. Gu Mingxian is the fake heir. Oh my! Such a gentle boy turns out to be the fake heir? Seems upbringing matters more than bloodline after all. This is the demeanor a young master from a wealthy family should have absolutely adore it. Gu Mingxian looked at the barrage of compliments flooding the screen, unable to conceal the smugness in his eyes. I grabbed Gu Mingxuan's hand in return and shouted loudly, "You've all been deceived, he's the real culprit behind the showy displays of wealth and violence." A flash of guilt flickered in Gu Mingxuan's eyes. I raised my voice even louder. "If you don't believe me, just ask where was Gu Mingxian after the Gaokao?" As soon as I finished speaking, my sister rushed out, grabbed my ear, and slapped me hard across the face. Her eyes filled with disappointment. "Su Jinchuan, how dare you falsely accuse my brother?" The onlookers, with fierce gazes, encouraged by my mother and sister, also began to kick and punch me. I was beaten until I curled up on the ground, vomiting large amounts of blood. Just as I was about to lose consciousness, the commotion at the school gate finally caught the attention of the security guards. The supervising teacher also came out and, seeing my severe injuries, quickly called 120 to send me to the hospital. But my sister stopped her. "Teacher, I advise you not to interfere in this matter. Su Jinchuan injured other students this afternoon. He brought this upon himself." Upon hearing "this afternoon," the invigilator instinctively retorted, "That's impossible. Su Jinchuan has been with me since 2 o'clock. I wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth, my voice choked with sobs. "Teacher, you must help me prove my innocence. These people insist that I left the exam hall in the afternoon to give an interview to reporters and even got into a fight." The invigilator was confused by my words, but still told the truth. Su Jinchuan suddenly confessed to cheating during the final exam, so he was detained in the classroom for investigation and was only released 10 minutes ago. As soon as these words were spoken, the crowd erupted in an uproar. "Don't talk nonsense. How could I not recognize my own son?" The sister suddenly pointed at the invigilator, looking as if she had seen through the truth. "How much money did Su Jinchuan pay you? A public official like you dares to shield him? Being falsely accused of bribery is a very serious charge." The proctor suddenly darkened his face. "Don't talk nonsense. I swear by my profession that I haven't told a single lie. If you don't believe me, you can check the surveillance footage anytime." Gu Mingxian quickly stopped the crowd. "No need to waste time. We can all confirm it was Su Jinchuan who threw the punch." I sneered. "You don't dare to go because it would expose the truth that you're actually the mastermind, aren't you?" Gu Mingxuan's face turned pale as he flusteredly explained. My sister glared at me angrily. "Su Jinchuan, if you keep spouting nonsense, I'll tear your mouth apart. In that case, shall we all go take a look together?" And so, our large group followed the invigilator to review the surveillance footage. In the surveillance footage, I was indeed in this classroom the entire afternoon and never left. The bald elder brother, after watching the video, looked at me with some guilt. "So it really wasn't you who hit my son?" I pointed at Gu Mingxian and shouted. "The one who did the bad thing wasn't me, it was Gu Mingxian." But someone still muttered quietly, "But the person who hurt my son really had your face." The parents finally realized what was happening and hurriedly showed the video to the proctors. "Not just you have the video, we have it too, and all the candidates saw it this afternoon." Gu Mingxian spoke up, hinting at something. "You can't bribe so many people, but a few proctors." Halfway through his sentence, he gave the proctors a look that said, "You know what I mean." But in the afternoon, there were not only invigilators from our school but also members of the Gaokao supervision team from the city. Accused of bribery again, they immediately called the police. At the police station, to uncover the truth, officers brought in technical experts to verify the surveillance footage. Yet the results shocked everyone, because both videos are real. At the same time, in different locations, there were witnesses, and it was indeed my face in both. What's going on? If both recordings are real, does that mean there are two Su Jinchuans existing simultaneously in this world? I think it's twins, right? Opinions were divided, leaving the police utterly confused. Gu Mingxuan's eyes darted around before he pointed at the school surveillance footage and said, "Look, Su Jinchuan wasn't in the classroom during this time. He must have sneaked out to give that interview." The crowd suddenly saw the light and resumed cursing at me. But their anger still wasn't appeased, and a few people standing close to me started throwing punches. I was already beaten half to death, and now I couldn't react in time. Another slap landed on my face. Although the police were protecting me, there were simply too many people. They couldn't stop them all. Several fresh bloodstains appeared on my face, making me look even more disheveled. Amid the chaos, I suddenly looked up at the Gaokao officials, my whole body trembling. Not fear, but excitement. Having lived a second life, I know full well that Gu Mingxian won't let me off easily. In that case, how could I have only one plan prepared? Shouting about cheating in the exam hall was just the first step. Everyone, stop. I have evidence to prove Su Jinchuan's innocence. Beaten to the ground, I suddenly opened my eyes. The person I've been waiting for has finally arrived. 5. Everyone turned to look as a pot-bellied man walked in, pulling away the people who were beating me. Stop it. All of you, stop right now. The man was utterly ordinary, even scruffy looking, with hair so long it nearly covered his eyebrows. No one paid him any attention and continued to beat me up. The man turned to the police and shouted angrily, "And you? How could you let someone get beaten up in a police station? Hurry up and break it up." The police snapped out of their daze and quickly stepped in to stop the fight. My sister sized up the newcomer and asked, "Who are you? What makes you think Su Jinchuan is innocent?" I know my own younger brother very well, and I'm fully aware of what kind of person he is. All these years as an orphan, he's managed to grow up like this. His methods are truly remarkable. Mom also nodded in agreement. That's right, our Gu family affairs are none of your business. Mom, could this be brother's sugar daddy? Gu Mingxian whispered. After all, nowadays many wealthy men have a thing for young boys. Mom raised her hand and slapped me hard across the face. Shameless wretch! The looks in everyone's eyes instantly turned to scorn. I was knocked to the ground again, lying prone as a bitter smile crossed my lips. These were the family members I had longed for so dearly. Whether in my past life or this one, not only do you not believe me, but you also want to kill me. Who is this? He looks like just an ordinary man. Could he really be Su Jinchuan's sugar daddy? Not a single valuable item on him. How could Su Jinchuan even be interested? No wonder Madame Gu is so furious. If my own son were to mix with such a man for petty gains, I wouldn't acknowledge him either. Isn't Su Jinchuan still flaunting his wealth, wearing a 2.8 million yuan watch? How could he still be kept by someone? Different voices appeared in the bullet comments, but they were quickly drowned out by more messages insulting me. Gu Mingxuan's few words further incited the anger of the crowd. Not only did they curse me, but they also vented their rage on the man. The police hurriedly intervened. Do you even know who he is? Stop scolding. It won't do any good even if you call the police. The crowd exchanged puzzled glances, unable to comprehend what kind of person could make even the police seem powerless. The barrage of comments quickly refreshed. Is this another privileged elite? Even the police are afraid. Could he be some hidden big shot? Whoever he is, with so many of us netizens watching today, we absolutely won't let Su Jinchuan escape legal punishment. Amidst the barrage of critical comments, one recognized the man's identity. Isn't that Director Zhang? Wow, I can't believe he'd appear in a live stream. Seeing someone recognize the man, other netizens immediately asked, "Who is Director Zhang?" and began searching for her personal information online. Director Zhang? Is she the director of that national-level certain laboratory? Hey, upstairs. What's this certain laboratory? Soon, more comments appeared to explain. That year, our country landed on the moon, and immediately after returning, we established a certain laboratory to begin researching the moon's secrets. Is this unremarkable man actually such an incredible figure? Not only were the barrage comments astonished, but the parents present also grew uneasy. Everyone looked at each other, but no one dared to speak first. In the end, it was the bald elder brother who had no choice but to step forward and hand over the medical bill, saying, "Director Zhang, it's not that I have any grudge against you, but Su Jinchuan has gone too far. I noticed Mrs. Gu dresses simply and elegantly, yet he, a high school student, wears a watch worth 2.8 million yuan. I won't even mention the blatant flaunting of wealth. But I saw with my own eyes that he injured my son. No matter who comes today, I will demand justice for my son." With the first one stepping forward, the crowd quickly joined in, clamoring for my severe punishment. Director Zhang signaled for everyone to quiet down, pointing at the surveillance footage of me in the exam hall. "Look at this!" 6. There cannot be two identical leaves in this world. nor can there be two completely identical people. Even twins have their differences. The bald elder brother nodded. But Su Jinchuan's mother and sister both insist this is Su Jinchuan. Director Zhang, under the gaze of the crowd, continued. Only those closest and most familiar with someone can truly recognize them. Here, the person most familiar with Su Jinchuan should be Madame Gu, right? Before Director Zhang could finish, I interrupted. I'm the real heir. Only found a month ago. Madame Gu is far from being the closest to me, even my teachers know me better than she does. The invigilator also stepped forward to confirm. Indeed, this afternoon Madame Gu and Su Jinchuan were both detained for questioning in a small room. Yet after coming out, she insisted it was Su Jinchuan who hit someone. Not just one's own birth mother, even a stranger would instinctively trust Su Jinchuan, who had been with them the whole time. For a moment, the noisy discussions around them stirred up the atmosphere. Faced with the invigilator's confusion, Mom's lips trembled for a long while, but in the end, she said nothing. If no one close to him can identify which one is Su Jinchuan, then what about personal belongings? Everyone looked at Director Zhang in bewilderment, when suddenly the bald man had a flash of insight. That 2.8 million watch? Director Zhang nodded and projected the phone video onto the large screen. The screen clearly showed Gu Mingxian, dressed in a suit, coquettishly pleading with Mrs. Gu. Mom, I really like this watch. Buy it for me. Mrs. Gu affectionately patted Gu Mingxuan's head and repeatedly said, yes, several times. After a round of bidding, it was finally secured for 2.8 million. Gu Mingxian was visibly panicked, looking at Madame Gu for help. But Madame Gu had no time to deal with him now. She was already overwhelmed herself, watching them shuffle backward in small steps, trying to escape unnoticed. But how could I let them slip away? I immediately shouted, Mom, where are you going? The three of them froze in their tracks, caught red-handed, their hearts pounding with fear, nearly stumbling. I said to the crowd, I think everyone just saw my mother's attitude very clearly. Although I'm her biological son, not only does she not love me, but she also wants to cut ties with me, and even buys such an expensive watch for Gu Mingxian, this fake young master. The watch belongs to the fake young master. I've said it all along, Gu Mingxian is the one behind all these misdeeds. The crowd glared at Gu Mingxian in anger. Gu Mingxian retreated fearfully, but suddenly his sister stepped forward, pulling him behind her, and spoke coldly. Su Jinchuan, you're still framing Gu Mingxian even now. What does it matter if this watch was bought by Gu Mingxian? Someone as malicious as you must have stolen it. After the Gaokao, you wanted to show off big time, bringing it to school for interviews to flaunt your wealth, thinking everyone would envy you. But instead of admiration, you ended up like a rat crossing the street, hated by all. Exactly. It's hard to fake an identical face, but stealing a watch is easy. Is this Director Zhang actually a fake? Upstairs, I also think this bureau chief was someone Su Jinchuan hired to act the part. How could a real bureau chief have time to meddle in such trivial matters? Many people present were live streaming, and the barrage of online comments was influencing their thoughts. Soon both Director Zhang and I were surrounded and attacked. Seeing everyone siding with him again, Gu Mingxian couldn't help but smirk triumphantly at me. A cold smile curled at the corners of my mouth. Who said Director Zhang was involved in some trivial matter? 7. In my previous life, I couldn't for the life of me understand why, after giving that interview, it was always my face associated with the flashy wealth and assaults. Never mind that I was properly taking the exam at the time with a solid alibi, wouldn't I know if I'd actually done those things? But after being beaten to death by the crowd, I immediately revived, without even a chance to investigate the truth myself. The moment I revived, I immediately confessed to cheating, but deep down, I felt uneasy, subconsciously sensing it wasn't enough. In a flash of insight, I remembered the middle-aged man I had met before the family reunion. At first glance, he sensed something off about my aura, but couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was. At first, I thought he was a fraud, but she said I would find my birth mother in 3 days, though the rest was unclear. Under his insistence, I accepted the note with her phone number. Though I threw it away after just one glance, my mind, sharp as a future top scorer, had already memorized the digits. After confessing to cheating, when the invigilator said they decontact my parents, the first number I gave was that middle-aged man's. After the call connected, I spoke before he could, quickly saying I'd been caught cheating and told him to come immediately. If he truly had the capability, he would surely come to rescue me. Only after he said, okay, did I hang up, pretending to have dialed the wrong number, then called my mother again. I thought at best he was just some fortune teller with a bit of skill. Calling him was a last resort in desperate times. I never expected him to actually be Director Zhang of the state. Since he was willing to come, it means this is definitely no small matter. There must be some major secret about Gu Mingxian or my mother that I don't know. Facing everyone's skepticism, Director Zhang took out his credentials, showing them not only to those present, but also directly displaying them to the live stream audience. I work in a related field, and his identity is genuine. Besides, with so many witnesses present at the police station, few would dare to fake it, right? The police also testified for Chief Zhang. We did receive a notification earlier tonight about Chief Zhang's arrival, and they even sent us his photo. The brother holding the live streaming phone couldn't help but ask, what on earth is going on? Why did both videos turn out to be authentic with no signs of being photoshopped? But how could Su Jinchuan appear in two places at the same time? I stared intently at my sister and said, Sis, I have a question for you. You've never liked me, you wouldn't even share a dining table with me at home. So why did you come to pick me up at the school gate this time? My sister rolled her eyes and said defiantly, Can't I just suddenly feel like being nice to you? I shook my head and said firmly, It's because you all planned to frame me from the very beginning. Originally, this role was Mom's. You decided that after I showed off my wealth and hit someone in the interview, she would rush over and shout my name, making everyone think it was me. Mom's face turned pale clearly. I had hit the mark. Too bad you never imagined I'd expose my own cheating, completely derailing your plan to get me out of school. And you even locked up the mother who could have confirmed my identity in a black room. Sis, you were in on this scheme too. That's why you had no choice but to shout my name at the school gate, taking over Mom's role. A flicker of guilt flashed through my sister's eyes, but she quickly regained her composure with even more self-righteousness. Su Jinchuan, you're simply talking nonsense. All of this is your delusion. No matter how eloquently you speak, it can't change the fact that it's your face in the interview video. Exactly, no matter how much he says, it's clearly just Su Jinchuan's own delusion. Why hasn't there been a result yet? It's been dragging on for hours. If you don't tell the truth, I'll report the streamer. Seeing this message, the streamer panicked. Su Jinchuan, whatever evidence you have, bring it out now. Before I could speak, Director Zhang, who had been fiddling with his phone, finally spoke up. The evidence is with me. As soon as the words were spoken, a group of fully armed people suddenly rushed in through the door, quickly subduing Mrs. Gu, her sister, and Gu Mingxian. What are you doing? How dare you arrest me? Gu Mingxian also shouted arrogantly. Do you know who my father is? How dare you arrest us? Director Zhang's voice carried a hint of authority. Of course I know who your father is, and I also know where the 2.8 million you spent on that watch came from. Madame Gu panicked. These matters shouldn't have been my concern, but since you dared to embezzle public funds, I won't let it slide now that I've discovered it. The armed police presence shocked everyone on site. They all cowered like quails, too afraid to ask questions. However, the live stream was remarkably well informed. Just now I was praising Gu Mingxian for being handsome and kind-hearted, but who would have thought his father actually embezzled our donations? If it weren't for Director Zhang investigating and uncovering the truth, who knows how much longer we would have been bled dry by him. Although Director Zhang is impressive, isn't he the director of the Research Institute? Why is he handling this too? Director Zhang also saw these bullet comments. He took a cloth bag from an armed police officer and pulled out an unremarkable square box. This is the real reason I came here today. As he spoke, he hurled the square box violently at Gu Mingxian, shouting, Where do you think you're escaping to? Just as the square box was about to hit Gu Mingxuan's face, it suddenly stopped. Gu Mingxuan's gaze gradually turned vacant, then frenzied, before he began struggling wildly in a final burst of madness. Two burly armed police officers could barely restrain him. Everyone was stunned by the eerie scene unfolding before them. More armed police officers rushed in and subdued Gu Mingxian once again. 10 minutes later, Gu Mingxian let out a piercing scream before falling completely unconscious. The captured mother and brother watched Gu Mingxuan's agonized state, wanting to rush over to protect him, but it was futile. Seeing this scene, apart from being slightly surprised, I felt not a trace of sorrow in my heart. Director Zhang carefully put the long box away again, then took out a gourd and held it under Gu Mingxuan's nose for him to smell. Gu Mingxian regained consciousness once more. Gu Mingxian blinked his eyes, then suddenly roared, What have you done? Where is it? Give it back to me. Facing the frenzied Gu Mingxian, Director Zhang sneered. What do you mean, give it back to me? The system? What system are they talking about? Is it the one I know? But isn't this the kind of plot that only happens in novels? How could it occur in the real world? Was Gu Mingxian bound by the system? Did the system do something that caused two Su Jinchuans to appear? With the national team's intervention and the live broadcast, most people witnessed it firsthand, leading to a rapid surge in online discussions. Director Zhang took the phone and nodded in acknowledgement. I think the systems we're talking about may not be exactly the same thing, but they're pretty close. Over the years, we've been studying what humans perceive as supernatural forces. 50 years ago, we discovered something that parasitizes human minds like a parasite. They call themselves systems, luring so-called hosts to complete tasks. Director Zhang said that most systems promise benefits to their hosts. For example, Gu Mingxuan's is a life-swapping system. With the system's help, he possesses a face identical to mine, gives interviews, flaunts his wealth in public, and after inciting public outrage, orders the Gu family bodyguards to beat up examinees. The purpose of all this is to steal my luck and offer it to the system. And the benefit Gu Mingxian gains is obtaining my Gaokao scores. Director Zhang looked at Gu Mingxian with pity and sighed. What a shame you've been deceived. How could a parasitic system ever truly share its power with the host? Parasites feed on the flesh and blood of their hosts. That's the nature of parasitism. Even if you truly obtained Su Jinchuan's grades, in the end, all of this would belong to the system, and even your life would gradually be diluted by the system. Director Zhang said solemnly into the live broadcast camera. This is also why I am here today and allowed them to broadcast live. I hope you all understand that there's no such thing as a free lunch. What you gain through shortcuts will ultimately come at a cost. Gu Mingxian stared blankly ahead, murmuring, Impossible. This absolutely can't be. The system promised me it would give me everything Su Jinchuan had. But all of this was just his delusion. The Gu couple were sentenced to life imprisonment for embezzlement, bribery, and misappropriation of public funds. Although my sister wasn't directly involved, the family's assets were confiscated. Having lived as a wealthy young master accustomed to a life of luxury, he got into a conflict over money, offended someone, had his leg broken, and was eventually sent to international waters never to be heard from again. As for Gu Mingxian, having once been bound as a host, he was taken away by Director Zhang to become a research subject. In the end, he too was never heard from again. As for me, with Director Zhang's financial support, I took a gap year to study again and ultimately achieved my dream of becoming the Gaokao top scorer. On the day Tsinghua University began its new term, the sunlight was just right, and my future was full of promise. The end.